Hi, Purpose Partner. Welcome to another episode of Rise to Your Purpose, a personal and spiritual development podcast for female entrepreneurs with a mission. We are your hosts, Brandie and Natalie.
We are founders of Victorious Entrepreneurs Rising, where we guide women to build profitable businesses online through diversifying your income, using kingdom principles in marketing, and operating in a spirit of rest so that you can create kingdom impact.
After this episode, be sure to join our Purpose Partner Facebook community and get your copy of our Rise to Your Purpose devotional so we can continue to serve you as we partner together in our faith and business. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey, friends of Purpose Partners. Welcome to another episode of Rise to Your Purpose. I'm your host, Brandie Thomas, and today I'm coming to you solo. I'm going to be doing a kind of a raw, uncut, unedited version today for this podcast episode on just leadership and what does leadership look like? What is the definition of leadership? How do we lead in our current season in our life? And yeah, just kind of diving into all of that fun stuff. So let's go. Okay, let's dive into leadership. So again, if you follow me, you know I am one of the coaches for Radiant Leadership Academy inside of the Girl Power Alliance membership platform. I have 3 weeks left on my third cohort that I've taught this class. So this is my third round of training and coaching this class. And we have about 3 weeks left in my last class, which is a total of 16 weeks. And then I just completed my third round of going through this class as a student. So in order to even become a coach of this class, you have to go through the Radiant Leadership Academy 2 times before you can teach it. So I've been through it twice, became certified, taught 3 different cohorts, and started another round myself for my own personal growth back in January. And we just finished that this past week. And so it's just really, I feel like God has kind of had me on this journey that since 2022 of being introduced to Radiant Leadership Academy and going through the certification process. And I feel like he's been completely just stripping me. And somebody said on my class on Monday when I was doing my share, where I'm like, I just feel like I'm in the messy middle. I feel like I'm not the same woman I was back in 2022. I'm kind of unsure of how to lead from this place. Like, I just feel like I'm in the messy middle. And one of my dear friends, Lene, who's also going through the program with me, she's like, you're in a molting process. And I'm just like, God is, I think, reconstructing what leadership looks like deconstructing and reconstructing. And so molting, I want to tell you guys the definition of molting. So molting is, typically it's used for animals. But it could be also hair or feathers, but it says to fall out to make way for new growth. And I just thought, like God is definitely pruning me. He's stripping things away from my life. And I do believe he's making room for the new. Isaiah 53, where it talks about there will be, don't you see I'm doing a new thing? And I'm making a way in the wasteland. That's kind of like how I feel these days. So 43:19, 18, it says, see, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. That has been a Bible verse that I've definitely been holding on to since 2022. And I do believe like God is, I've been kind of like in a wilderness season, or at least that's what it's felt like. And God is like, he's doing something new in me. He's birthing something new. And I don't fully see it or understand it yet, but he's definitely stripping away. He's pruning away different things. If you've listened to previous episodes, we've had a renovation this past year of our fixer-upper home that we bought last spring. And I felt like my life in all areas was also being demoed and renovated. While my physical house was going through that. So it's just been like a crazy year and a half. And so I'm still trying to, I think, process it all and understand it all and see the big picture and the vision. And God's like, just take the next right step. Just let me light your path. I'm a light unto your feet and a light into your path. And so that's kind of all I can do right now in this season, right? Is just take the next right step, keep leaning into God, keep fixing my eyes on Jesus, and being obedient, staying in tune and in flow to the Holy Spirit. And as I let God prune me and come into that posture of surrender to receive, where, my hands are open and I have to just be open and unattached to the outcome as I'm doing the things, as I'm walking in obedience. And not put expectations on what the fruit's going to look like or when it's going to show up or how it's going to show up, and just keep walking in obedience. And so that kind of brings me back to the topic of today's podcast, which is like leadership. And what does it really look like to be a radiant leader in all areas of your life? And what does it, look like for you specifically? And what is that definition for you specifically? I think for me, where I'm coming from is like I have been in leadership roles. I know I'm called to lead. I've always kind of had to step into the leadership role, whether it be in classes, in school, or just in group things. It seems like I kind of always had to be that first person to step up and like take the initiative. And then, creating my own coaching business and doing my own business strategy and systems management business that I do now, and leading Radiant Leadership Academy. Like leadership is definitely a part of my purpose here on earth that God has called me to. Now, with that being said, as I'm sitting here and praying to God, like, God, give me your unique definition of leadership, because I kind of find myself right now feeling like I don't fit in or out of place a little bit. And so I'm like unsure of like, how do I, in this current season of life, like what does leadership look like? And how do I stand in that confidently and show up as a leader when I'm not even sure? I'm just like, I kind of feel in a place of brokenness, or I feel like I'm wandering in the desert right now. Like, how do I lead others when I don't even feel like I'm leading myself necessarily effectively, because I felt confused or overwhelmed or like unsure of even my next steps. And so I feel like God's kind of deconstructing the world's expectations on what a leader should look like. And he's reconstructing what is his definition of leadership look like. And we have to go to the Bible for that. And it's so funny because First Thessalonians 4 verses 11 and 12, like these speak so much to me right now in this season. And it's funny because in my past, I've been that person to go and achieve and do things and be kind of in the spotlight or be in the forefront, be the pioneer of things. And I feel like my desires are kind of shifting or being taken away, and it's almost like God's putting me in this like cave or this like hidden season. And literally I came across First Thessalonians 4 verse 11, and I'm like, yes, this is literally what I want right now. It says, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business, work with your hands, just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. And that is totally where I feel like my life is right now, or this season of life. Like we bought this fixer-upper on an acre and a half of property. We're out in the country, out of the city. We have amazing neighbors, but we're not like up in each other's business. Um, we're close, but not that close. We might see each other on a walk on our like country road that we're on, and we'll chit chat there, but everybody's kind of like living a quiet life and, sticking to their own business. And we just got 6 chicks, baby chicks, and we're going to be building our chicken tractor, because I'm all about they will come and then I'll build it. So I was like, what is the baby chicks are a tractor supply company? So let's go ahead and get them and we can, as they grow, we'll build the chicken tractor for them. Um, so stay tuned for that. You can follow all that on our Victorious Acres Instagram. Anyway, so like I feel like this is where God's I'm like, I'm ready to get my garden going for the year and working with my hands like that. Yeah, like as we're renovating this home and like fixing it up and just giving it some TLC, that's kind of where I feel like my desires are right now. Whereas before they were like really heavy into the business world, and I feel like God's calling me back more to not to like leave the business world, obviously, because I'm still going to be here doing this podcast and sending out emails and showing up on social media in some sort of capacity. But there's like a shift happening, and where he's calling me kind of more inward. And so I think for me, where like my struggle might be as I'm literally processing this out loud with you on this podcast episode is where business was kind of my baby, and like now I have a 4-year-old son, and he needs me, I think, even more than he did as a newborn baby, because it's not just about like feeding and changing the diaper and the clothes. It's now I have to pour into him from an emotional and intellectual capacity and lead him through how do we handle our emotions and how do we handle questions and um how do we learn new things and critically think. And so as he's growing, it is forcing me to lead in new ways, and that is kind of shifting my like capacity and shifting my focus towards motherhood being my main mission and place of leadership, and leading in my home as I am a homemaker and a stay-at-home mother, um and want to be homesteader. And so leading in my home and then leading in our finances as we are paying down debt that we accumulated through our fixer-upper property and the renovation, and we are stewarding those finances that come through, and leading in that way and being an example of that. And then it's like, okay, God, I feel like I can, and I think because leading in those areas are so hard, there's not as much left for me, or at least it feels this way, to be the same leader that I was from a business capacity in social media, in yeah. So like I say, I'm in the messy middle right now, figuring this out. Like, okay, God, like I know you've called me to business. I know you've called me to marketplace ministry, and you've called me to be a mother to my son Elijah, and a wife, and a homemaker. And also I've been sick, so I'm like trying to steward my health and get my body back to where it was pre last September, when I had a virus. And I'm just like, man, I'm kind of, to be fully honest, like, and transparent, I'm just struggling because I feel like, and I think part of it is I have to go to war every day and literally fight the toxic thoughts of the enemy, who's like, how can you lead other women when you are sick? You're not even healthy. You can't even get up out of bed in the morning some days to work out. And How can you lead other women when you're in debt? How can you lead other women when you're yelling at your son and losing your mind? And then go and tell them to have positive thoughts and manage your emotions and when you're like, I'm literally contradicting myself. And I feel like God, as I'm like asking these questions, leaning into it, I'm like, God, show me where you are in these areas because there's a lot of lies coming into my atmosphere right now, and it's confusing me and it's overwhelming me. And that's, I think, what the enemy wants to do, right? Like he sees me doing the work to heal, to overcome these obstacles, to continue to persevere, to continue to long suffer, and to continue to like win the race marked out for me or run the race marked out for me for kingdom impact. And he sees me taking territory and new ground. And he doesn't like it. So of course he's going to come at me with these toxic thoughts and with illnesses and different things and obstacles. And then like when I just kind of get quiet enough, I hear God's still small voice be like, Brandie, stand in your identity, stand in your authority. Remember who you are and whose you are. Remember that you were created to do greater things than these, and that you may be shaken, but you will not be destroyed. And you already have the victory. So stand and fight from that place and that knowledge and wisdom. And keep leading and keep showing up because your mess is going to be your message. And so it's like I'm I'm just also another transparent moment. Like I'm currently looking to find a grief coach, counselor to I think I have God's been showing me too, like you have unprocessed emotions and wounds and grief that I want to heal and I want to restore, and I want to reconstruct the story around those wounds and put my truth and show you where I was in those moments when you felt abandoned, when you felt alone, when you felt like things were just totally broken. And, so I feel like that might be why he's kind of pulling me back a little bit and like putting me into this kind of hidden season because he's like, I need you to do some heavy, deep work, and it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be messy. But you are going to come out of it and you are going to continue to be a radiant leader. And it's okay to not have it all together and not be, and to feel weak because guess what? In your weakness, I am strong. And you get to let me shine up and show up for you. Let me pull up that strength or that verse where it says in 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 11, it says, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And I think that's like, this is another verse that has just comforted me over the last few months is like, it's okay to be weak. Boast in your weakness. Be transparent, be vulnerable, share that. Share that you are feeling weak right now. And that you are in persecution and you are suffering hardships and difficulties. Share it and boast in it because guess what? My grace is sufficient for you and my power is made perfect in your weakness, Brandie. And listeners, like this is speaking to you just as much as it's speaking to myself. That God is going to use my weakness and he's going to turn it into victory. And it's going to shine glory back to him. And there's going to be good things that come out of it. So I'm leaning into that right now of just being in the messy middle of God, allowing God to deconstruct what leadership used to look like for me, how I showed up on social media, how I showed up with my family and with myself, and allow him to reconstruct that, which right now looks messy because it's uncomfortable. Um, it's forming new habits that maybe I once had but lost, or completely new habits. And, habits take time to form, and continuing to fight and put on that armor and stand in that divine identity and authority, because the enemy doesn't want me to have those new habits. The enemy doesn't want me to have positive thoughts and renew my thoughts and think on good things and pure things and honorable things. He's going to continue to come. But guess what? I can say, flee, I rebuke you. You have no authority here. I'm covered by the blood of Jesus. And repent on the things and ask God to come and remove his legal right that he has over me. Because I know I'm called to do greater things than these. I know I'm called to heal others, and that God's going to use me to heal people. And that's why I think he's taking me to an even deeper healing process to remove things that I haven't been given space to process yet, and fully grieve and truly heal from. And he wants to give me that life and give me life to in full and in abundance. And it is messy. It's uncomfortable.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We want to take a moment and extend to you a special invite to partner with us in Girl Power Alliance. Inside Girl Power Alliance, we are so focused on helping you step into your kingdom identity and becoming the woman that God designed you to be. That's what the entire membership is built around. Inside of our membership, you have access to over 300 different modules, weekly live coaching calls, ICF certifications, and more that you get to plug into. Plus, you have a rich opportunity to build an income by sharing those things with others. We are a completely digital platform, so you don't have to worry about shipping product or providing things for people. We do all of that for you. You get the fun of just promoting and sharing Christ-centered resources to others. You have access to the opportunity of starting a digital business for less than $500, and your monthly overhead is less than $200 a month. To be a VIP member, it's only $150 a month, and yet the ability to grow in income has no limit to it. We are trying to bring kingdom believers back into the room. We have a vision of seeing more kingdom entrepreneurs in the world and more financially free believers that love Jesus. If you want to be in that room, make sure you connect with us. Join our movement by clicking on the link in the show notes. And we can't wait to welcome you into our family. Yeah, it's kind of like I'm not in like the most fun process right now. And so I just wanted to kind of share that with you and continue to share that journey. Like, if you've listened to the last solo episodes of me, you knew I was like on a social media fast for Lent, and that was actually amazing. And it kind of was like, man, do I even want to go back on social media? What does that look like? And so I'm like, when I show up and I post, I'm trying to just come from a place of, is this fun for me? Is it forced, or is this in flow with the Holy Spirit? And are these the words that I'm supposed to share? And if I don't really have anything to share, then I'm not going to share it. Like, if I don't want to just show up just to show up. I want to show up with purpose and with meaning and with impact. And that's like why I'm leading more into the podcast and the emails, and maybe even hopping over to Pinterest and showing up there, like looking at different platforms outside of Facebook and Instagram that I can, that maybe are going to be more beneficial for me in this season, and, cast my net on the other side of the boat and see what's on that side. And, so looking into and leaning into, okay, God, what does that look like? Where do you want me to show up? And so stay tuned. When I know, you'll know. But I guess the whole point of this podcast is just to like we are called to lead in all areas of our lives. God has given us the Bible for our blueprint, for our principles and strategies on how to do that, how to lead yourself, lead your mind, your thoughts, how you speak about yourself and about others, how you take care of your body in your temple, how you steward the finances and the resources that God is giving you, how you take care of the people in your life, the relationships in your life, and lead in your family, and in those relationships. And he gives us the blueprint and he calls us to step up and lead in these areas and to be disciplined. And so it's like I know the blueprint of how to do it. And but I think he also has to prune away old concepts, old worldly concepts that are not his ways and his practices. And he's teaching me to follow Jesus and truly be his apprentice. And that means, right, as we give our life to Jesus and we say yes to him, there is a next step. It's not just like, okay, I'm going to say yes and then go back to my old life. No, we have to continuously die to our flesh and die to that old life and step into our new creation and practice the way of Jesus and be his apprentice and study him. And literally, one thing that's been really cool is there's a couple books. So there's one book called Practicing His Presence, and it's written by monks from like hundreds of years ago. And then there's a newer book called Practicing the Way. And they both kind of have the same concept of like practicing the way of Jesus. And in the book Practicing the Way, it talks about, and I'll like link that in the show notes, but it talks about how back in Jesus's day, like Jesus was the rabbi and the apprentices were chosen by the rabbi, and they would literally follow them and they would get the dust of the rabbi on their clothes, their bodies. That's how close they were. They were studying the rabbi and they were walking behind them and staying in step with them and literally just learning and soaking up, how did they think? How did they interact? How did they eat? How did they pray? How did they do the day-to-day things? And then the apprentice is practicing those ways, and then they go out and get sent out to be apostles and messengers. And so when we look at how Jesus led his disciples, they followed him. They watched him, they lived with him, they communed with him. They, rose with him. They just went on the journeys with him, right? They were in each other's business, right? And then he sent them out two by two. He had to teach them first, and then he sent them out to practice what they had learned. And so I feel like that's kind of where I'm at right now, is like God is deconstructing these old habits and beliefs around leadership, and he's reconstructing based on his biblical principles and strategies. But then I have the conflict of the flesh and the spirit, where it's like, okay, we know like what we're supposed to do, but the spirit is willing and the flesh is weak. And so I'm kind of in that messy middle where like I'm breaking off the things of the flesh, and that is hard and it's uncomfortable and it's messy and it doesn't feel good, because I'm having to die to my flesh every day to get out of bed and exercise and nourish my body and think good things and talk, replace the toxic thoughts in my life and replace them with new ones, and how I speak, how I behave. And I have to go through a healing process and do that inner healing work and maybe do some deliverance work. Well, stay tuned for that. But God is like literally deconstructing me and reconstructing me right now. And it also pertains to leadership and how do I lead? And, society's version of leadership is you have to be on this stage and all the lights are on you. And I think God's kind of like, you are a leader behind the scenes, and you lead in your family. You have this huge mission field and this huge leadership opportunity with your son and with your husband, as your husband stepping into taking over the spiritual leadership role that you have had for the past few years. And you're leading in how you manage your home and how you invite people in, and the hospitality that you get to show them. And you're leading in how you're stewarding your finances to make good, wise business decision and wise financial decisions. And so he's like showing me like I am a leader, but it's not going to look the way that the world wants it to look or other people's expectations wants you to look. And one of the things I love about the coaching business I have is that I actually lead from the behind. I help other women step into their calling and rise to their purpose by working behind the scenes on their business. So while they're out there doing the things in their field of expertise and their field of favor, I'm operating in my field of favor and building their websites and setting up their funnels and their email marketing, their text messaging, building their websites and all of those things, doing kind of the mundane, the behind the scenes that's like clicks with me. I love it. It brings joy to my life, but it's not necessarily their field of favor or their like jam, right? Tech is not not for everybody. And so it is kind of interesting how God's been pulling me back from literally speaking on stages to hundreds of people to leading that and be leading that quiet life, and that's my ambition. And so I think God is kind of showing me like leadership doesn't have to be in front of flashy lights or on stages. And it's the quiet leadership that really does have the most impact. It's the mundane leadership. It's the daily habits of leadership that has the most impact. And so stay with me as I continue to uncover and walk into that and practice that. And just being completely honest and transparent, like it's hard. I am a battle of flesh versus spirit right now where it's like I know what I need to do, but actually doing it is hard and it's uncomfortable and it's messy and it doesn't look good. For example, and then I'm gonna wrap up this morning. So I'm creating a new habit of working out on Wednesdays and Fridays at home in the mornings, getting up and doing Bible study, the Neurocycle app, and like an exercise of sorts. And I was knocked down with another virus fever out for a whole week, and it totally threw off like I had worked up to 45 minutes of an exercise. And now I'm kind of back to, all right, my alarm went off. I didn't get out of bed. I listened to the Bible reading today because I have like the audio version where I can listen to it. I again listened to the neurocycle thing in bed, and then I did a workout and kind of half in bed and half out. Like, so part of it was like you're supposed to be laying down. So then when it got to the stand up part, I got out of bed. But it's like I still did it and it was messy and it didn't look great and it wasn't like 100% hardcore. Um, but I'm just like taking those little steps in the right direction. And that's kind of where I feel like right now. And so again, it's coming back to just get into the habit of leading in this small ways. And there's a book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, which is one of my favorite personal development books. And it's just doing those simple little things every day that seem to make no difference. But then over time, as you do them over and over and over, they like turn into the compound effect, right? So they just compound over time. And you get that slight edge and you just like work your way up that hill and you finally get to the top of it. And so that's kind of, I think, where I'm at. I'm like just doing these mundane tasks that don't really feel the greatest. They're not flashy. They're not, shiny. They're kind of messy and kind of like a deer walking for the first time, like knock-kneed and all over the place. And Excuse me. And that's just kind of where it is right now. But I know I'm called to leadership, and I know like I have everything I need to be the leader God's calling me to be. And I'm kind of just in that messy middle. So this is for you if you also find yourself in the messy middle and you're just like, I know I'm called to do things and I just have to start someplace. Just start, sister. Like you are created for such a time as this. And there are women in your life that you're anointed to lead and so we have to be good stewards of that. But it doesn't just apply to leadership, I believe, doesn't just apply to like leading people. It's also leading ourselves. It's leading our finances. It's leading our minds, our health. And then it's leading the relationships around us and shifting the atmosphere through how we show up. And so I just encourage you, like, keep leaning into God, keep fixing your eyes on Jesus, keep letting him pour into you and, getting as close as you can that his dust is like on your face and like in your mouth. And he will bless you. He is faithful to finish the work that he's done in you, that he started. So keep fixing your eyes on Jesus. Keep showing up in that posture of surrender to receive and taking that next right step on your journey to leadership and letting God define what success and define what leadership looks like for you versus letting the world and people in your life, because people are going to tell you they want you to do things and they want you to show up in a certain way and they're going to put you in a box. And guess what? Our God is not to be boxed. And so, and because we are his children, I don't think we're called to be in a box either, because then we can't be in tune and in flow with the Holy Spirit, who's also not one to be boxed up. So my encouragement for you is if you're finding yourself in the messy middle, keep going. Just keep your eyes fixed on Jesus and you're going to find yourself walking on waves in the middle of the storm, and you're going to rise above it and you're going to be impacting and leading just because you had faith and you followed Jesus and you took the next right step. So with that, ladies, thank you so much for listening and hanging out with me today. I know this was raw and uncut and unedited, so I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear from you if this episode blessed you, like share it on your stories, tag me in it, write a review because that just helps us get this podcast out to more women. We're going to be doing a series coming up on Behind the Courses called Behind the Courses. And I'm going to be interviewing the different women who are creating like the courses inside of the Girl Power Alliance membership, because we not only have our Radiant Leadership Academy class, but we also have courses that you can take self-paced. And it's just really amazing to meet the women behind these courses. Why are they contributing these courses, for free to Girl Power Alliance, and just hear from the women who are actually leading in this space as well and showing up, and what is their story and where are they at in their leadership journey. So stay tuned for that Behind the Courses series coming up. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We would love to hear from you. So please share your takeaways by tagging @LiveVictorious over on Instagram and leave a review.
This will help us get more visibility and reach more women like you for the kingdom. We appreciate you and are praying for you as you shine your light in the business world and rise to your purpose.